Hello and welcome to Dish Shelved with Adam White. Today I'm going to be talking about author Richard Butner. Uh, a long time ago, which turned out to be 2004 when I looked in the front of the book, I got a chapbook of stories called Horses Blow Up Dogs City and Other Stories. It comes from Small Beer Press, which publishes a lot of really good stuff. Uh, anyway, I thought I recalled the book, the chapbook from when I'd got it, and the author's name came up in something else, and I'd really like to read that again. So I set about to looking because that's been a long time ago, and how I am with my junk stuffed everywhere here, I I didn't ever dream that I'd find it. Well, as you can see, obviously I found it. It was on a shelf in my room, right where I'd put it the first time I got it. And when I looked in it, um, I saw that it was a first printing limited to 400 copies, and it was autographed by the author. And you all know how much I love autographs if you've ever watched this show before. So I was really, really pleased with that because I remembered that I had it, but you couldn't buy it anymore. And like I said, that was 2004, so it's been quite a while ago. Anyway, I just based mainly on this title of it. I got it a long time ago and really enjoyed it, and I revisiting it now, I really enjoyed all these stories. The contents are Horses Blow Up Dog City, Drifting, Lo-Fi, Ash City Stomp, and the Rules of Gambling. Now, Horses Blow Up Dog City is about a couple of people and their interesting relationship with a puppeteer who becomes really famous. Um, Lo-Fi is about a um, a girl who will do pretty much anything from modeling to pornography to whatever have you just to be famous and what she goes to do it. Ash City Stomp has a story about a woman with her new boyfriend who's going to deliver some drugs that she just tells him that she wants to go visit a college. And the rules of gambling have a guy that likes to gamble that meets a woman who just shows up at his house randomly and seems to always know who's going to win the football games every week. And so he starts winning money based on her and kind of their relationship. The whole thing with his stories are there's not any one theme throughout it. That the themes seem to change through the stories, but it's really his characters. They're just so realistic and so enjoyable to read about that you want to continue reading, even though the stories aren't connected in any way. They have all his stories have a literary quality to them, but they also have hints of science fiction. Some have hints of fantasy. Some have hints of horror. Um, and then also, not only this, but I got one, it's on my Kindle, so I can't show it to you, but I got his book called The Adventurists, and it has adventure, Holder Haven, scenes from the Renaissance. That was a really interesting story. This guy goes to a Renaissance fair and tries to find an old sort of girlfriend and ends up, you don't know if it's time travel or something else fantastical going on, but there's a lot of fantasy in that story. Uh, this also has Ash City Stomp and Horses Blow Up Dog City. Those are the only two that come over from this one. Uh, the Master Key, which is an interesting story that's got some fantasy elements to it. Um, these two people that used to know each other at school go on a adventure back to their old school because it turns out she's still the one of the people still has a master key to it that she had gotten while a student there that they'd copied without telling anyone. There's Circa at the fair. Pete and Earl was an interesting story. It was more of a straightforward story. There wasn't too much fantastical in that, but it was about helpers to this girl from goes home from college and visits both her mother and this old woman who had had a girl her age that she was friends with that had died, so she visits the woman sort of in place every couple of weeks, and it was really interesting. The Ornithopter, which was one of my favorites, I think. It was like an episode of The Office, but mixed with the Twilight Zone, if you can imagine such a thing. But it was a really interesting story, and it it just was really weird and had some weird stuff going on in it, and you it kept you on your toes like most of these did. There's Stronghold, Delta Function, Give Up. Chemistry Set was an interesting one. It had a little bit of horror to it. It's just about a guy who remembers as a kid playing with another kid from his school who wanted to teach him football, and they get into some shenanigans, and it has a really weird ending. And Under Green was about a girl who comes back from living in Los Angeles or San Francisco and New Orleans, and used to deal drugs and stuff, but she's got back to where she wants to just kind of need lead a normal life. But there's some fantastical elements in the story that make it really interesting. I won't say what because you really should read it. And Sunnyside was the last story, and it was probably the most sci-fi of any of them. Uh, this former couple has one of their friends die, and they go to his wake, and they get hooked up into these virtual reality machines, and they don't know what's going to happen when they go in, and it's what they find is really interesting, and some strange things happen, but it's really got a lot of a sci-fi vibe to it. But again, that book's called The Adventurists, and it does have two of the stories from in here, but unfortunately this isn't available anymore. But I can flaunt it off here because I have an autographed copy of it. So sorry about that. But Richard Butner's book, The Adventurists, it's available on Kindle or in physical copy. I forget. Um, I think it's 2021 it came out, so it's not nearly as old as this one is. But Richard Butner's a really good writer. I mean, you just really want to follow. Like I said, each story is different, and just completely different, and nothing links them at all. But each story, you're immediately engrossed in the characters, and you just want to keep reading because you don't know what's going to happen next. Because, like I said, he has these fantastical elements in them, in some of them, and some of them have a little sci-fi vibe to them, and there's just lots of stuff going on in these stories, and none of them are super long. So, I mean, you wouldn't have to read them all at once. I did, but um, you really get a good sense of each character in his stories, and they all have lives of their own that you really get attached to as you read them. And then you immediately can turn around in the next story and get engrossed in their story for the next one. And it just is a really, really fantastic set of stories, both this chapbook and the book itself, The Adventurous. Really, really entertaining, really fantastic stories. Uh, I don't think he's written anything else other than these. I will be looking further into that. I haven't seen anything else, but rest assured, if he's got something else out there, or uh, if he comes up with something in the future, I'm definitely going to read it. And I really can't highly recommend these enough. And like I said, they're literary stories with a little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of horror, a little bit of fantasy, and they're really entertaining. And like I said, it's the characters is the main thing of these stories. You just get so engrossed in their lives, even if it's a short story. You really get caught up in everything that they're doing, and each one gives you a different experience, so that you're always reading something new as you go through these books. And I just thought they were fantastic, and I highly recommend them. Like I said, this one you maybe can find on eBay or something possibly, but two of the stories are in the book, and you can get that easily on Kindle or as a physical copy, and which I have it on Kindle. And anyway, excellent, excellent stories. Richard Butner, I'd really highly recommend. I'll get there so you can see his name there too. I highly, highly recommend these stories. Anything you find to his, he's been in anthologies and stuff too. So I'll have to see if any of those anthologies contain stories that aren't in any of these, because some of them appeared for the first time in The Adventurous, some of them appeared for the first time in this. A lot of others were in magazines or journals that had short fiction in them. But excellent, excellent work. I can't recommend them highly enough. And I'll leave you with that. You definitely should check this author out. Richard Butner, The Adventurous. It's available easily. Check it out. And thank you for hanging out with me this week. And I will see you guys next week.